Hi, my name is Brett Holloman. I am a statistician in the Southern Plains Regional Office serving Texas and Oklahoma. In this presentation, I will be going over the June Area Screening Form. The Area Screening Form is used to record the names and addresses of all tract operators, as well as verify the presence of agricultural activity or potential. Do not assume that a tract is either ag or non-ag simply by observation or any assumption about the $1,000 sales rule. Be sure to follow the screening questions. Sometimes the presence of agriculture isn't obvious, and that it may be CRP land, nursery, or only a few head of livestock that aren't visible in the segment. A tract can appear or be non-ag, but be part of another operation, either inside or outside of the segment, or have fields outside the segment. When in doubt, fill it out and leave notes. Be sure to follow the half-acre rule. When screening urban or residential areas, which is covered in Chapter 5 of Interviewer's Manual. Finally, you need to enter the information from the screening form onto the June Area CAPI instrument. So, what is the half-acre rule? If the residential parcel is half-acre or less and no agricultural activity is visible, assume it is a non-ag tract. If visible signs of agricultural activity are present, including equine, screening should occur no matter the size of the lot. It could be smaller or larger than half an acre. If the residential parcel is over half an acre with no ag activity present, interview the operator to determine if they operate a farm. If the residential parcel is over half an acre and a farm operator lives on it, assign a tract letter and complete a tract questionnaire. Residential areas with multiple lot sizes less than half an acre with no visible agricultural activity can be drawn off as one non-ag tract, but you will need one contact name and address associated with every non-ag tract. Here's an example of the half-acre rule. Non-ag tracts of half acre or less can be combined into one tract letter. So let's look at the first parcel of land. It is 0.4 acres, meaning it's less than half an acre, but it has a horse on it, so we must give it its own tract letter. It will be tract letter A. To the left of tract letter A, we have three non-ag parcels of land of 0.3 acres each. All contiguous non-agricultural areas can be drawn off and assigned one tract letter on the aerial photo or map. Contiguous means that the parcels of land are next to each other or are sharing a boundary. So we take all three of these parcels of land and give them one tract letter. This will be tract letter B. We also find that we have two other non-ag parcels of land that are half an acre or less that are contiguous with tract letter B. So we can combine all the non-ag parcels into the same tract letter B. This makes this tract letter B equal to 1.9 acres. Our next parcel of land is greater than half an acre, so it gets its own tract letter of tract letter C, and the same for tract letter D. Any parcel of land greater than half an acre gets a separate letter for ag or non-ag tracts. On the front page of the screening form, there should be pre-printed information about the segment. This includes the state, stratum number, and segment number. If there are multiple pre-printed pages of the screening form for a particular segment, that will be indicated on the right-hand side where it says Part 1 of 1, Part 1 of 2, and so on. The county name and FIPS code should also be pre-printed on the form. You also have the online survey code to give to a respondent if needed on the front page of the screening form. If during screening or pre-screening, you need to add more names of new tracts onto an additional blank form, you will have to write in all this information onto the front of each new form added. A survey code located under the county name can be provided to the respondent if the respondent no longer has a copy of the map sent in the mail or a respondent that was not mailed a packet. Provide the respondent with the website www.agcounts.usda.gov and the corresponding survey code to access the web map for the segment. The respondent will enter the code and click on Continue. There will be two clickable items on this screen. The survey title as indicated with the large red oval circle, and the June area map icon as indicated with the little red circle. To go directly to the segment parcel map, the respondent will need to click on the June area map icon. If the respondent happens to get ahead of you and clicks on the survey title, as in the large oval, it's okay. A world map will appear. When the world map appears, the respondent will open the segment parcel map by clicking anywhere on the world map. Be aware that the next button at the bottom of the page does not work. So to open the segment parcel map, the respondent must click on the world map. When the respondent has completed his or her view of the map, please instruct them to close it. Before you begin contacting potential operators in a segment, you should spend some time thinking about how you want to introduce yourself to a respondent, explain what you're doing, and why you are interviewing them. If you're not able to reach anyone by phone, you cannot simply skip the interview. Be sure to review the callback procedures in the interviewer's manual. The front page of the screening form also asks two key questions to determine if the person you are talking to either operates or lives inside the segment. If the respondent doesn't live or operate inside the segment, the respondent may still be able to help you find out who is operating there. It's also possible that the respondent is a landlord who can tell you who is renting the land, or if they happen to be living in one portion of the land, but someone else is farming the majority of the parcel. If necessary, correct the blue boundary lines drawn on the tract to reflect what the person is actually operating. Remember, if we get the wrong operator's name, we're stuck with the wrong name for a year. So please be sure to take extra time to make sure we've got the correct name of each tract operator. Next, you want to work with the operator to determine the boundaries of the tract he or she operates or lives in. In 2021, you will not be able to show the respondent the aerial photo to draw off. However, you and the respondent will both have the report all parcel map as shown here to refer to in your conversation. When working with the operator over the phone, you can discuss specific parcel numbers referenced on the map or other landmarks that you are aware of based on your experience in driving around the segment. If the respondent operates one or more parcels, then those boundaries can be drawn off on the aerial photo in blue. If the respondent tells you they only operate part of the parcel, you can then cut that part off and assign only the portion of the land that the respondent operates. The respondent might even be able to give you further information in regard to any additional operators in the segment. For old segments, parcel maps like this one were also created, but you will also have the advantage of having the full aerial photo with the tract letters marked on it from the previous year. Do your best to work with the operator over the phone to confirm or correct the blue boundary lines drawn on the photograph to reflect what the person is actually operating in 2021. Once you confirm the boundaries of the tract, you need to assign the tract letter and record the full name, mailing address, and phone numbers of the tract operator or resident of that non-ag tract. In column 5, be sure that the letter you write down on the screening form agrees with the letter you assign to the tract on the aerial photo. As a final check, make sure the letters you are writing on the aerial photo in your screening form agree with what is already in CAPI. For old segments, the names, contact information, and tract acres are pre-printed on the forms. This information should be verified each year. Remember, if there's a new operator in the tract, even if it's a non-ag tract, then we will need to assign a new tract letter. In column 6, record or verify the full name and complete mailing address and phone number. Include non-ag in the operation name if needed. There are several screening questions on the form which are designed to determine if the tract operator qualifies to complete an ag tract questionnaire. These questions should be asked in order as they are designed to address the most common types of agricultural activity first, with the least likely activities later. If the respondent answers yes or don't know to any one of these questions, they will qualify as an ag tract operator and will be expected to complete an ag tract questionnaire when the time comes. If the respondent answers no to any one question, they should continue being asked the screening question in order until they get their first yes or they answer no to all of the screening questions. If the respondent answered no to all screening questions, like you see here for Tract B, then you will need to complete the questions associated with columns 18, 20, and 20A. As a reminder, these columns only need to be completed for non-ag tracts. In the example shown here, Tract A was determined to be an ag tract after answering the first screening question with a yes, so we don't need to fill out any more information in that row of the form. For our non-ag tract letter B, in question 18, we want to record the acres in the tract to 1 decimal place. Use the pre-printed decimal place on the form when entering your answers. Below the acres, you should write a brief description of what is in the tract. In column 20, you need to answer whether the tract has potential for agriculture in the next 12 months. In column 20A, there is a code that needs to be filled in to categorize what kind of non-ag tract this will be. Only one code should be entered into the box in column 20A. These codes can be found on the back of the screening form. On the back of the screening form, there is a list of these codes that are valid to record in column 20A. Please include clarifying comments if you choose option 8 or option 12. Option 8 is for obvious non-ag, which could include roads, cemeteries, prisons, penitentiaries, interstate highways, railroads, airports, hospitals, electrical substation, state, county, local transportation facilities, waste or wastewater treatment facilities, churches, and others. Also, if there is a potential for agriculture in the next 12 months, be sure to explain how you know the potential is there. Some states ask for PIGA land, which stands for Public Industrial or Grazing Association land. If column 7 is yes, enter acres in column 21 and conclude the interview for the PIGA land tract. Overall, a tract will be an agricultural tract if anywhere on the tract acres operated, the operation produces or raises some type of agricultural commodity, stores crops, produces or sells agricultural products, receives government payments such as from the CRP or WRP programs, owns or raises livestock, or meets some other criteria for agricultural activity based on the screening questions. If the respondent answered yes or don't know to any of the screening questions from column 8 through 16, then you must complete an ag tract questionnaire for this operation because agricultural activity has been determined. Don't forget that the screening questions refer to the entire operation and not just the tract acres. A tract will be a non-ag tract if it meets none of the criteria above. So for non-ag tracts, questions 8 through 16 are all no, and columns 18, 20, and 20A will be completed and your interview is complete in the screening form for the non-ag tract. There's a few special notes to discuss regarding non-ag tracts. First, you should record in the operation name what is actually there. Is it a church? Is it woods? Is it roads? Especially if it's something that is clearly non-ag other than a residential property. You should also be sure to record a contact name and full street address if possible for non-ag residents. This is necessary for any non-ag tracts that have the potential for agriculture in the next year, as they will be sampled for follow-on surveys to see if they actually have agriculture within the next year. If you have residential neighborhoods with no agricultural activity, then having one contact name who can represent a group of multiple houses is sufficient, provided that you're following the half-acre rule when grouping those houses together. In column 20, seriously consider what it means for an operation to have potential for agriculture. In the next 12 months, could a crop be seeded without having to do significant improvements or clearing of the land? Is there a greenhouse or grain storage bin on the property that looks like it would not take a lot of work to put into production right away? Is there a fenced pasture, a barn, a pen, a hog building, a chicken house, or any sign of other potential for livestock? Ask the respondent if they intend to have agriculture at any time between now and the next 12 months. If there's no respondent available, then you need to use your best judgment based on observation. If a non-ag tract is coded as having potential for agriculture, as in Code 1 or Code 2 in those checkboxes, then that tract will be sampled for all follow-on surveys, including the quarterly agriculture surveys, cattle, sheep, goats, hogs, labor, and others. The interviewer's manual discusses several other specific issues you run into particular problems during screening, including several of those listed here. Some of these problems, including federal public land, institutional farms, operators with land in more than one segment, along with others. Consult your Chapter 5 of the Interviewer's Manual to properly handle these special screening situations. There are a few other special circumstances here which may require your attention, which are also addressed in the Interviewer's Manual. For example, you may run into some large segments that have 2 or more aerial photos going with them. In some cases, you'll see that the boundaries of the segment are not easily identifiable, especially when you get out there and try to figure out where you are. The boundaries of the segment on the aerial photo and the county map may not agree. There may be a segment that you do not have an aerial photo provided for you, in which you should contact the regional office. There may be some segments where the boundaries might extend into a neighboring state or neighboring county. There may be a segment where the boundary cuts right through the middle of a field. There may be a segment that has so much agriculture that it contains more than 20 ag tracts in the same segment. And you may see a situation where the digitized acres printed on the photo are not correct, and you are able to verify that after doing a lot of work with your photo grids. After you have screened the entire segment and enumeration is complete, you will need to fill out the last page of the screening form. Items 1 and 2 are used to account for all of the tract letters in column 5 and all the tract letters on the photo to make sure that they agree. Those 2 numbers should always be equal. Item numbers 3, 4, and 5 are used to record the count of number of area ag tract questionnaires that were completed, along with the number of non-ag tracts in the segment with the acreage reported in column 18, as well as the number of PIGA tracts in column 21 on the screening form. Those numbers should add up to equal both item number 1 and item number 2, which again should both be the same. Next, you want to copy the acreage value for each tract to the center of the screening form in the box as indicated. Then, you will want to add up all the acres in the segment for ag, non-ag, and PIGA tracts and record the total in the box marked reported acres. The RADA ratio is a calculation you should make to show that the RA reported acres are relatively close to the DA, which is the digitized acres. You want to take the reported acres and divide by the digitized acres and multiply that number by 100 to calculate a percentage. The expectation is that the RADA value be between 95% and 105%. The Interviewer's Manual states that the RADA value can be between 90% and 110%, but regional field offices prefer to be within the 95% to 105% range to make sure the correct land is accounted for. If it is not, then we need to know what the problem is. Is it a problem with the photo, or is it a problem with the measurement of each tract? If your RADA is too low or too high, you may need to inspect your photo to see if any areas were missed, or you might need to measure the tracts with your acreage grid to see if they were possibly reported incorrectly by the respondent. Please add comments if you encounter something noteworthy, such as problems with enumeration. For example, if a new segment is difficult to enumerate, in that a river divides it, has an odd boundary, or has a lot of ag tracts in it, leave helpful comments so the regional field office can further evaluate the segment in the future. Also, be sure to write down the number of hours required to complete enumeration on these difficult segments as well. In closing, here are a few reminders of things that you do not want to forget during screening or pre-screening. You must account for all land inside the red segment boundaries for all segments. All land inside the segment must belong to an ag tract, non-ag tract, or PIGA tract, even if the entire segment is one large non-ag tract. Be sure to get complete and accurate names and addresses of tract operators for all ag, non-ag, and PIGA tracts. For ag tracts and new segments, be sure to write the complete name and address on both the screening form and on a blank ag tract questionnaire. Having the wrong tract operator will cause problems for the entire next year. Be sure you've accounted for the entire segment by verifying the number of tracts completed and the acreages on the back of the screening form. Finally, be sure to leave good comments and make sure that everything balances out. Thank you for your time as we've covered how to complete the screening form.